Welcome to the Rockabye Revenue Podcast with me, Abby Watson. I'm a mum of 4 and a business strategist, and I train people to become hypnobirthing teachers. In the last decade, I've built a thriving baby business that grew beyond my wildest dreams. This podcast is for you if you run a business or dream of running a business in the birth and baby industry. You want to change lives whilst making more money. I'm talking about creating sustainable income whilst being present for the people that matter most. I believe for our baby businesses to have the impact we desire, we must be rewarded. On this podcast, expect me to share actionable strategies without the jargon. I've been where you are. I've built a business while raising 4 little ones, and now I'm here to help you turn your passion into profit while creating the life you've always dreamed of. So let's get started. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Rockabye Revenue Podcast. I am so glad you are here. Now, I am talking about something today that is very real for me right now. And I spoke about it on Instagram the other week and had so many messages from other women also feeling very similar. So it definitely made me want to talk about it, okay? So we're talking about feeling overwhelmed, okay? Now, whether or not we run a business, I am sure we have had times of overwhelm. I certainly have, feeling overwhelmed is something that I have experienced in my life many times before, and it was one of the reasons that I actually left my regular job. I used to be a secondary school teacher, and after I had my baby, when I went back to work, I found that I was just constantly overwhelmed, and I couldn't see how things could be any different. It wasn't the only reason I left. Of course, I wanted to be with my baby. I hated leaving him in nursery. I wanted to be with him for all the milestones. Yet overwhelm played a big part. Okay. Now, if you are familiar with the feeling of overwhelm, it's that feeling of being exhausted, feeling like everything is like messy, and just like not knowing where to start and feeling so, well, this is how it is for me anyway, feeling so anxious that there's just so much to do and not knowing where to start, okay? When I feel overwhelmed, I also find that I really struggle to make decisions, and I hate making decisions when I'm feeling that way. Like, even someone daring ask me, like, what's for tea, can make me want to run away and live somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, the thought of having to decide what to cook, what to do at the weekend, all those kind of things just feel too much, okay? When I feel overwhelmed, I feel exhausted, and I also just want to, to be honest, you know what's really weird? When I feel exhausted and overwhelmed, I want to do something like clean my fridge out. That's really weird, isn't it? Really weird. But I get this strong urge to be like, I need to clean the fridge out. I need to clean the cupboard. I need to sort out that cupboard in the kitchen where, those tins at the back, they're probably from 2019, That's what I get really focused on. And, thinking about it, it is probably no bad thing because, it is said that when we declutter and we do something that feels like a real, something accomplishing, gives us a sense of accomplishment. It's actually really good for overwhelm. So maybe that's why I feel that way. I also feel like just snuggling up on the sofa with a film and a bag of Seabrook's prawn cocktail crisps. I definitely have a tendency to feel like I want to emotionally eat, and that sends me on a cycle of even feeling worse, not necessarily because of guilt, but because I'm eating crap. I'm eating sugar and I'm not even enjoying it. I'm like shoveling crisp down like there's no tomorrow. I'm even going into the fridge and eating crap that I've bought for the kids, weird stuff that they like. Like my 8-year-old loves cheese strings. Like literally they taste of nothing, and I can be found like shoveling them into my mouth. Again, just making me feel worse. Okay. So as I was talking about overwhelm the other day on Instagram, I talked about how I know there's a few things that have played a part in me feeling overwhelmed. I know it can be a feature of women who run businesses. And one of the reasons that, overwhelm can strike us as business owners, just like it can employees, but because, sometimes it feels like everything's down to us, and that can feel a lot. Also, I know that overwhelm has sometimes played a big part in my life as a business owner because other people assume I'm actually a stay-at-home mum, and I don't correct it. I don't act like I'm not. I almost feel privileged that can be the assumption they have of me because I'm able to be so present with my kids. But the downside is I'm trying to act like this stay-at-home mum at the same time as running a business, and that's when I get burnt out. That's when I get overwhelmed. Okay. So I do think as business owners, we can experience times of overwhelm. I find that I experience overwhelm after something really great has happened, So the reason that I was talking about experiencing overwhelm on Instagram the other week was because of the amazing success of this very podcast. I was so focused on the launch of this podcast. I found energy from, I don't know, where did I find energy from? I just found it from the wardrobe. It just appeared, and I was so motivated and was loving it. I was loving the feedback. It was fabulous, but no doubt that living on adrenaline had to come down. And that's what I experienced. I'd had so much joy from the launch of this podcast, and I'd been so busy. It had to come down, okay? And I share that with you because I want you to understand that you might also experience that from time to time too. You might have experienced such great success of something that you've done in your business, and you're like, oh, but I can't even deal with it now. It's too much. Why have I done this thing? What am I going to do? I can't repeat this experience because this is how I feel at the end of it. Know that can be quite common, and know that also it doesn't necessarily feel like that the next time, because the next time it isn't so new. Know that it's almost like a bit of a hangover, If you've ever drunk alcohol or had times in your life where you've drunk a lot of alcohol, what do you feel like the next day? You feel rotten. You feel depleted, sometimes when we've had like such success or we've been very visible, we can almost have this hangover afterwards. And that is definitely one of the factors that has played a part in my overwhelm recently. Okay. Another factor that I know has been a big part of me feeling overwhelmed is other things going on in my life. Isn't it easy to look for the things in business when actually what's been going on in everyday life? If you've had difficulties with your children, if you've been managing illness in your family, things like that, again, it's another ball to like juggle, and we can't do it. So we get to a point where we're like, oh, I am depleted. I am exhausted. I don't know what to do. I am feeling overwhelmed. Okay. So there's so many times that overwhelm can strike. Okay. How do you deal with it? So I'm going to basically just tell you a few things that I am doing right now in this stage of overwhelm. Firstly, I know this feeling that I am experiencing, this feeling of overwhelmed, and I'm repeating that it's a feeling because it absolutely is a feeling. It's not like, I don't know, it can feel like a curse, but it's not a curse. It's simply a feeling like anything else. And I know that this feeling will not last forever. I know that I might feel very different even in a week, So I trust that I have been here before and it doesn't last forever. In that feeling of trusting that it won't last forever, I'm also thinking of the fact that it's understandable, giving myself the grace to acknowledge that it's really normal and understandable to feel that way, rather than judging myself and being like, oh my gosh, Abby, you've had such a great podcast launch. You should just be so grateful. How ungrateful that you are now feeling depleted. How ridiculous. How are you going to cope with all the big things in your business? Not judging myself like that. It is absolutely to be expected that I've had this big high and there'll be a bit of a low afterwards. Totally understandable, totally human. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, absolutely give yourself that grace too. Next, I'm writing blooming down what I need to do, because do you know what your mind does? You're thinking of all the things that you've got to do, and you think of all that you've got to do, and you're kind of like repeating all the things that you've got to do in your mind. So you're repeating this list of maybe like 8 things, but because you're repeating it over and over again, those 8 things feel like 80 things, yeah? When you actually sit down with a pen and paper and write down what you need to do, actually, it's often quite comforting that there's not as many things as you think there is, okay? Also, once you've written down what you need to do, you then think, okay, right now, I am not feeling on top form. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling exhausted. I'm struggling with decisions. So as much as there's all these things that I'm saying I need to do, not all of them are essential at all. Which things do I actually need to do? Because I bet when we write down all the things that we need to do, some of those things are actually nice to do's. It would be nice to complete that thing that you've been intending to do for a while. But what's another week? It would be nice. It would be nice to have 3 pieces of social media content going out this week, but it's not a need. It's not a necessity. You are a human. You are a machine. You are not a machine. That was supposed to be. You are a human. You are not a machine. Therefore, being consistent in your business doesn't mean you're not allowed breaks. You went into this because you wanted the freedom to be able to listen to yours and your family's needs. And this is one of those times. Okay, so be really clear, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now, with what is a necessity and what isn't. Okay, and don't be blooming putting the things that are not a necessity on your list. That can be for a list for other times. Okay, and then the other thing that I am doing that I would highly recommend if you are feeling overwhelmed is this. And I don't know who originally created this phrase, but I know it from my wonderful friend Claire that I couldn't be without in my business because she just always gets it. And she said to me a while ago, touching grass, when we're feeling like this, we need to touch grass. Now, she didn't mean you need to go out in the garden and actually touch the little bits of grass, you could, that'd be a good thing to do, get outside in nature. People tell you to do that, don't you? Brilliant, yeah, do that. But what she's actually referring to is do something normal, get in the real world. When we are so in our businesses, the things that we feel are problems or heavy weighing on us, when we get into the real world and meet our friend that's so disconnected from business world for a coffee and she's just chatting about regular things, it really helps us put things in perspective. So ways that I've been touching grass recently is doing a bit of Christmas shopping. I blooming love it. Pop into my mum's, having a cup of tea on her sofa, touching grass that way. Attending things with my children, doing the pickups on an evening to clubs that they're going to, normal things, and not picking up my phone to do a bit of work, touching grass, getting into real everyday life, and my goodness, it just puts things into perspective. Now, if you are listening to this week because you were so attracted to the title because you are feeling overwhelmed, please know you are not alone. You are not alone. We all have times where overwhelm hits. You will feel better soon. And it's no wonder you feel like that from time to time. You're doing big things. You're doing amazing things for other people. And maybe you need this reminder to also offer that kindness to yourself too. All that kindness that you give to everybody else. Maybe this overwhelm is a little reminder that little bit of kindness, that lot of kindness that you give to everybody else can come your way too. Treat yourself with kindness. Go for that coffee. Things can wait. And my goodness, you will come back stronger. Everyone needs a break. So go off, touch the grass, touch some grass, move some deadlines, and you will come back stronger. And I will too. So anyway, I really hope whoever needed to hear this message today has heard it loud and clear. Have a wonderful week, lovely one, and I shall speak to you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to Rockabye Revenue. I hope this episode has left you with some fresh ideas and bundles of motivation. If you enjoyed this episode, do make sure you click subscribe so you never miss an installment. And if you found this episode useful, I'd love you forever if you leave a 5-star review, helping this podcast reach the ears of more of the helpers in this world. And remember, keep changing lives. See you next time.